the SCO summit. You wrote a piece on your website, The Dawning of a New World Order.
Right.
What has happened and how did you find the SCO summit?
Well, I haven't seen all, it finished up overnight while I was in bed, so I didn't have somebody sitting there dictating to me. Actually, the the funniest thing was that, the photograph I showed of the meeting of Modi with Putin and Xi. There was a period where they were laughing, and so all these memes are starting to pop up on the internet of them laughing. Like, for example, one of them goes, Putin to Modi, "Man, can you believe that Macron is married to a dude?" Or Putin tells Modi, "Yeah, my grandfather died in his sleep on a bus." And Modi goes, "Oh, I'm so sorry." He says, "Yeah, he died peacefully. Too bad for the other passengers." you know, but it shows up, so these were not laughs from trying to be polite. These were genuine belly laughs. So I don't know what they were talking about. But when you see those three, particularly India and China, laughing together,
Mm.
that's good news, because previously they were like getting ready to launch nuclear weapons at each other. And the tensions that have existed between those two countries for several years, which the United States was gleefully trying to exploit. And now the United States finds itself on the outside looking in, because this SCO originally was sort of it was a meeting of China and the former Soviet republics. Principally, they were the main body of it. But now others are getting invited in. The one I thought was fascinating that showed up, or the three, were Turkey, Armenia, and Azerbaijan. And while Azerbaijan was at the SCO, Russia just blew up one of their ships that was hauling weapons into Ukraine. So, maybe Aliyev will have something to talk to Putin about, or Putin will remind him. He just say, FAFO. I'd like to figure out what FAFO is in Russian. I'll have to go onto Google Translate, start using that as the acronym. That'll be what Putin shared with Aliyev. But the start of it, I did get the initial sort of remarks from Xi, and he said, "Hey, we're not going to put up with this bullying anymore. We're going to chart a new security order." So this is the work of SCO is really going to complement BRICS. And the irony, it's not so much irony, but Modi shows up at this as the new, sort of acting president of BRICS for the next year. Just as, last year around this time, they were in Kazan for the BRICS summit. And that's when the mantle fell upon Brazil, and we were worried, oh boy, Brazil's going to drop the ball on this, and they almost did. But now Modi enters it with, both critical support from the other BRICS nations and all of the SCO nations, because they're in a confrontation and showdown with the United States. And these idiot advisors around Trump, particularly Peter Navarro, too bad they didn't keep him in jail. They're convinced that they're going to tell India what to do, because this is all about hurting Russia. And these countries, they've had enough. And so they're coming together at a time that the United States, its foreign policy under Trump is, how many people can we piss off today? Who can we alienate? It's crazy.
What's amazing, Larry, 2 days ago I talked with you and before about this article in the Politico. There was an article arguing that the next 5 years, the escalation that could happen, one of them was between China and India.
Ah, yeah, I know.
It's unbelievable.
Listen, within the foreign policy establishment here in the United States, and I'm saying this for most of your foreign viewers that they'll appreciate and understand what's going on here. There are sort of two myths that continue to dominate the if you're attending any of these academic forums or these policy presentations, you're going to run into this. Myth number one: the oh, Russia is just it's the stepchild to China. It's just there for convenience sake right now, but it really doesn't like the Chinese, and the Chinese are going to dominate it anyway. It's so Russia's so small and so insignificant. So we got to make Russia our friend so they can work with us so we can defeat China. Elbridge Colby, the deputy #2 guy at the Department of Defense, has written about it extensively. Aaron West Mitchell did a paper we talked about before that was in the national interest along those lines. Rand Corporation in 2019 spelled it out, of how to split Russia from China. And what the combination of Joe Biden and Donald Trump have accomplished is they've brought China and Russia together in a relationship that is historic because at no time in the long history of both countries. So with Russia, you go back 1,000 years, and with the Chinese, I'm not sure I got enough fingers on my hands to count how far back, but they now are integrated, and both economically, politically, financially, and militarily they are sharing. So this is a broad-based cooperation. And now in Russian schools, for example, kids, it's expected that they learn to speak Chinese. So that's it's not an esoteric course for only a few people. It's one everyone's expected. Hey, you're going to learn another language. You're going to learn Chinese. So that's the first myth. The second myth is that there's no way India and China can get along. And what do we do? Through the Central Intelligence Agency and other intelligence organizations, do everything in our power to try to exacerbate or set that confrontation afire. Anything we can do to provoke the separation of those two, the better. We don't want them working together. God, they might do something beneficial for the world. We can't have that. So, but these are concepts that people sit around and talk about it, in these open forum and on the cable news shows that in fact, when I go on to say what, I won't be allowed on, but if I was allowed to go on and say what I'm saying, man, they'd treat me like I had leprosy.
It wasn't just about China and India, Larry. They had the same sort of argument about Russia and China as well, about Iran and Russia being they don't like each other. They are, after all, they are some sort of enemies historically, but it shows that you look at the picture right now, you see how the world is changing before our eyes. China and Russia, it's something. I think for the establishment in the United States, still they don't believe what's
Yeah,
going on
no,
between the two.
they're saying, no, I'm not seeing that. That's got to be artificial intelligence. But it's not just that they're meeting and they're talking; they're also doing. So when China purchases Russian oil 10 years ago, when that happened, and it wasn't in the quantities that it is now. If China wanted to buy Russian oil, they'd have to take the Chinese RMB and they would go to the international financial market and buy dollars. And then they'd pay those dollars. The dollars would get transferred to Russia via SWIFT, and it would get deposited in a Russian account. That's not happening today. They're not buying those dollars. And so the demand for the dollar is going down. Now, it's not so dramatic that it's dropped 20 or 30%, but you know what? It is like how floodwaters take down a wall. If they're running outside that wall, first comes off one piece of concrete, then another piece of concrete, then another. So pieces start coming off, and it doesn't appear serious until all of a sudden it does reach a point where the structural integrity of that wall has been breached, and boom, it falls over. That's where the U.S. dollar-dominated financial system is headed, because Russia and China are going outside that. China and Brazil are going outside that. India with Russia is going outside that. India with other BRICS countries is going to go outside that. So all of a sudden, these countries, China, Russia, and India are major countries, and as is Brazil. South Africa is not in the same league with them in terms of an economy. But now that they're all starting to use currencies other than the dollar for settling international trade, it is a threat to the U.S. dominance of this financial system. Now, they've insisted publicly that, no, we're not out trying to replace the dollar, no. But, it's not like they're going to set up a new currency, which will just be, a BRICS currency. But they are saying, we're not going to any longer be in the position where you, the United States, can bully us, threaten us, sanction us, hurt us, and use your dollar as a club to beat us. No, that's going to stop. And the U.S. actions in the wake of the start of the special military operation in February 2022, that's where this initial fuse was lit. And I wrote about it back then. And all of a sudden, the fire has spread. It's growing. And it's going to come a point. I don't know, is it going to be next year? Is it going to be in 5 years? Where the U.S. will no longer be sitting atop the heap controlling this. And at that point, we're going to have to change how we act and how we interact with other countries. Do we treat them with respect and as equals, or do we continue our new form of neo-colonialism and try to rule over them?
I think the main point would be, what is bringing all these countries together? The only point is their economy is bringing them. Their economy is totally important for their security, for their growth, for the future of the country. And it doesn't seem that that fact is appreciated in Washington.
Oh no,
because you cannot imagine China without the energy coming from Russia and Iran. You cannot imagine Russia without the help of BRICS, because we know how BRICS was important in the fight in Ukraine, because they wanted to put the pressure the way that to crush Russia, to just destroy Russia. But the BRICS didn't get along with that plan. India
Right.
said no to the Biden administration, not to Trump administration.
Right. Yeah, it is. We're at a transition phase in the world where the countries that have been exploited by the colonial empires, by Europe and by the United States. I put the United States in that same colonial empire. We like to pretend that we're the world's best friend and we're sitting on a hill celebrating democracy, when we're one of the biggest damn invaders in history. And the death tolls we've racked up of other people is significant. But you look also in Africa across the Sahel. These countries that used to be exploited by France in particular are kicking them out and taking control of their own natural resources. You know, one of the things that has been the hallmark of the West is to go into a country. Oh, we'll invest here with you. Just let's say, hey, we'll help you with that gold mine. But then, hey, we're going to sign it over to us. And all of a sudden, those countries, you don't see the development of infrastructure. You don't see the development of the people in terms of having a solid middle class, people with a consumer society where they can live and with a decent infrastructure, good roads, good sewer and water systems, so the population's healthy, good electricity. The colonial empires did not promote that. And they always dealt with these Africans in particular. These black people, they're stupid. They don't know, they're animals. Well, they've had enough. And now they're recognizing, we're going to take control of these resources and use them for our people. Now, are there some leaders that are corrupt and going to take advantage for themselves? Yeah, absolutely. That exists here in the United States. So, we're in no position to go around pointing at others and lecturing them. Hey, you need to clean your act up and be like us. Oh, you mean like, all the presidents that have gone into office not as multimillionaires, and when they leave office, they're multimillionaires? Yeah, great system. Bill Clinton is, the poster boy for that, as is Barack Obama. Two of the worst examples. So, we got the corruption on this side of the aisle, but we're always out lecturing other countries. So they're now starting to break away from that. I would not be surprised to see an alternative setup to the United Nations, or that there's going to be a confrontation with respect to the United Nations. There's no reason in the world that France and England should sit in two of the most important seats on the UN Security Council where they can veto anything. France and England, or the United Kingdom, are irrelevant countries. Yeah, they've got through the financial system, the Rothschild banking influences, the European money there. Yeah, they've got some influence, but militarily, economically, they're a joke. They're an absolute joke. They don't produce anything of great note. France produces great wines and champagne. Ooh, some good cheeses.